Hi guys, my name's Grace. I'm back with another video, and today it's going to be my first kind of research essay video sort of thing. I've never done this kind of thing before, and I'm really excited to get into this. It's something I think not a lot of people have talked about, and I think it's an interesting discussion to open up. I really haven't seen much about it. Many people talk about it or even kind of realize it, and I think it's something important to talk about. Yeah. Also, because this is like a research video essay sort of thing, I do have a script down below, but I do like showing my face in videos, so I kind of don't have something to hide behind. I feel like some YouTubers who do like opinion or essay videos kind of hide their face a lot and do voiceovers instead of being face to face with the camera. So excuse me if I'm looking down at my script that I wrote. Okay, hi, it's me. This is me after filming the video. I'm going to leave my references down in the description, so I will link my script that I used. I kind of went off script a little bit at some points, but I stuck to it pretty faithfully, and I will also leave my sources down below if you guys want to check them out for yourself to make sure I'm not lying. Like I said, it's my first time, so if you have any pointers on how I can communicate better, please let me know kindly and respectfully in the comments down below. Okay, so today I'm going to be explaining how the K-pop industry is a classist industry. I did a bunch of research, I've written up a script, and I've broken it into 4 parts that I've explained. Yeah, let's get right into it. Part 1. What is classism and the basics of the K-pop industry? Okay, so let's start off by defining the word classism. According to the Wikipedia definition, class discrimination, also known as classism, is prejudice or discrimination on the basis of social class. It includes individual attitudes, behaviors, systems of policies, and practices that are set up to benefit the upper class at the expense of the lower class. Generally, the word classist is used in more quote-unquote serious situations, such as to describe social, political, and economic disparities between social groups, but today I will be explaining how the K-pop industry could be considered a classist industry. It is absolutely no secret that the K-pop industry is a money machine. It is a very unique system that has yet to be paralleled, to my knowledge, anywhere else in the world. As opposed to the Western idea and practice of already active artists being quote-unquote discovered by record agencies and given record labels, K-pop is very, very different. People, most of whom are children and teenagers, audition, which is a very difficult process in itself, to be a part of a company. Once they have passed the rounds of auditions, if they do get that far, they go down the long road of what is called training. At the beginning of the training period, the person signs a contract in which a predetermined amount of time for training is set. Usually it's about 1 to 2 years in a small number of years range. And in this time, the person becomes an asset and an investment to the company. Without going too much into detail about the activities of a trainee, because that's not really the point of this video, just know that the word investment is very, very important. Companies see training these people as a sort of monetary investment, a hope of future profits, kind of like investing money into the stock market. So now that we've defined classism and the basics of the K-pop industry, let's talk about part 2. What do trainees and idols do? What is included in their debt? So let's talk about the basics of what a trainee or an idol does, or in other words, what the company invests into them. Firstly, it is common for trainees and idols to live in a building owned by the company, have managers to check in on them, and eat food and drink provided by the company. A pre-debut trainee's activities include lessons in singing, lessons in dancing, lessons in rapping, lessons in foreign languages, and lessons in media training. Media training is how to act during interviews and on TV to make you seem more desirable to an audience and to fans. Basically how to be a likable person. The entire agenda of training varies from company to company greatly. Some companies only offer the basics like singing, dancing, and rapping, while others include lessons in acting and music production, kind of adding on some extras. But the gist of this training system is that companies will take in young, unskilled, as in untrained individuals who they consider to have the potential to become a member of a money-making pop group in the future and provide classes in areas required to do so. And here's what people tend to forget or ignore. The trainees pay for all of these lessons. Yes, this is where we start getting into the meat and potatoes of this video, the point that I am trying to communicate. The money, the cost of being a K-pop idol. You may have been thinking this whole training thing sounds absolutely great. You audition for a company, you get accepted, you get to live there, all the food and training is provided for you. Also, you can achieve your dream in the future, right? Well, not really. It all sounds great, well, except for the starvation and mistreatment and fainting and all that sort of thing, but that's not the point of this video. That's something we'll get to at another point. The thing many people tend to forget or ignore is that K-pop idols and trainees have to pay for the training that they receive, and it's expensive. It's a lot of money. In an interview with Asian Boss on YouTube, a former K-pop trainee named Kaya explains the costs of training.
For the trainee program, do you have to pay money for it, or do they pay for everything, or how does it work?
It entirely depends on the companies. And
how was your case?
My ex-company, they actually paid for everything. And I heard that that's not usually the case. But a lot of these other companies, the trainees have to come out of pocket for everything.
If a K-pop trainee was gonna pay, how much do they typically pay?
Thousands of dollars. It's not like some cheap expense. It's, do you want to try acting when you're an idol at some point? Well, that's going to be about $300 to maybe $400 US a month.
Right.
If you want to do dance classes every month, you need to pay. It could range from anything from, depending on if you do cheap classes, from $400 to over $1,000. The idol industry is the way that I feel like Korea kind of survives, because a lot of people do invest, and a lot of young kids get, interested in Korean music or just K-pop in general. And so they want to be an idol because they think it's something that'll be easy and it'll keep their family set for life financially. But they don't realize how difficult it is necessarily when it comes to training and just dedicating your entire life and sacrificing so much.
As Kaya said, there are exceptions to the payment rule, such as with the big three companies of K-pop: SM Entertainment, YG Entertainment, and JYP Entertainment. These big three industry-dominating companies, and when I mean industry-dominating, I mean were there when the industry started, pretty much built K-pop. They were there from the beginning, and they have had the most popular groups for about 30 years. That's what I mean by industry dominating. They own K-pop pretty much. They do not make their idols, active debuted idols, pay for their training costs or the costs of putting them in hair and makeup, the music production costs, the video production costs, because it is expected that when a group or soloist debuts with a big three company, that the profits of their music and fan meets and everything that comes along with the activity of the group will automatically break even with the costs of producing. But for companies with not such a strong hold on the industry, such as the big three, there is no guarantee that the activities of the group, the profits, will break even with the costs of the production. So I wouldn't even really call them profits, basically. And what I mean by cost is the immediate cost, the production of the music video, the production of the music, the styling, but also the cost of training the members of the group. So because there is no guarantee that profits will be made, a debt system has been put into place. Because there is uncertainty surrounding the possibility of profit for most groups, meaning groups not from the big three or other big companies like Big Hit, Cube, Pledis, groups like that, coming from if not the big three, then larger, well-known companies. They require that trainees and idols pay for the lessons provided by the company. Even after debuting, most groups get nowhere close to breaking even, so many active debuted K-pop idols are still in debt to their companies while they are promoting. Okay, I'm ready to blow your mind with some lists and numbers. A debt for a pre-debut trainee includes the sum of costs of all lessons. Remember that long list of lessons I gave earlier? Singing, rapping, music production, acting, dancing, everything. Housing, food, and plastic surgery if gotten, which happens a lot more than people care to admit. A debt for a post-debut idol, meaning someone who is active in the industry making and promoting music, include the costs of the training period, plus all the costs of promoting, which include music recording, video sets, stage sets, clothing, hair, and makeup, video production, staff salaries, stylists, and video recorders and such, and fan meets. Fan meets are where idols get to meet fans, and they cost money to set up. So, in short, a whole lot of money. Also, not everybody who trains debuts in the end. So, even if a trainee does not debut and decides not to renew their contract during their training period, they are still indebted to the company and must pay off the costs. There is no escape from this debt. Part 3. Why is it so hard to pay off the debt, and why most K-pop idols make so little money? Using quotes directly from K-pop idols and doing the math on album sales. So, as explained before, companies see training people to be idols as an investment for the future. Companies hope that when debuted, these refined and polished members of a pop group will be able to bring in profits, exceeding the costs that have been put into the production of the group. In reality, there is no guarantee that a group will be popular, and no guarantee that their songs will even be heard by many. So companies have the trainees and idols pay for the pre-debut themselves. Somewhat surprisingly, the company also makes idols pay back for the costs of promotions, the costs of post-debut, which I listed earlier, the costs of activity as an idol. The ouchy part of paying back these debts is the extreme cost of the situation. Former Madtown member H.O. talks about this on a live stream.
이게 왜 아이돌이 힘든 직업이냐면 일단 경쟁률도 엄청나지만 아이돌로 데뷔를 했어요. 연습생을 거쳐서 데뷔를 했잖아요. 그러면은 빚이 어떤 데서 빚이 발생하냐면 내가 저번에도 말씀드렸는데 뮤비 큰 틀만 얘기 드릴게요. 뮤비, 음악, 녹음, 의상, 뮤비 세트, 그 촬영, 앨범 만드는 거, 이리저리 막 이런 거 있잖아요. 그리고 이제 음악 방송 할 때 의상, 밥, 식비 이런 거 다 하면은 최소 5억은 있어야 돼요. 한 그룹에 모든 걸 만들어서 음반 제작하고 뮤비 뿌리고 팬미팅하고 이런 거 다 하려면 5억은 무조건 있어야 돼요. 5억. 그 5억에 한 팀이 빚이 되죠. 봐봐, 7명에서 5억을 나누면 얼마예요? 7천만 원씩 대충 1인 빚이 7천만 원이 생겨요. 5억이 필요하니까. 근데 그 5억을 이제 한번 활동할 때 다 벌 수 있냐 이 말이지. 음악방송 나가면 돈 버는 거 없어요. 이선희님 팬들 고맙습니다.
잘 먹겠습니다.
고맙습니다. 자, 데뷔를 했어요. 한 아이돌이 5억이라는 빚을 가지고 제작비 5억이 들었어요. 그 5억을 가지고 활동을 해. 음악방송 하면은 솔직히 돈 버는 거 없어요. 음악방송 돈 버는 거 없습니다. 그냥 단지 우리는 이 절차예요. 사실상 음악방송은 시청률이 요즘은 많이 안 나오지만 음악방송 나감으로 인해서 이제 거기 팬분들한테 보여드리고 노출하고 그냥 노출이에요. 단지 노출. 그리고 수익은 어디서 발생하냐면 이제 행사, 콘서트, 해외 공연, 음반 판매 이런 데서 발생하는데 그런 걸로 5억을 채우기가 너무 힘들어요. 아이돌은 특히 워낙 많기도 하고 앨범을 그만큼 많이 팔 수가 없어요. 앨범 10만 장 팔기가 엄청나게 힘듭니다, 여러분들. 만장 팔기도 힘들어요, 앨범을. 요즘 그 누가 앨범 삽니까? 요즘 세상에. 그렇잖아요. 그 앨범 사가지고 그 안에 CD 들어있는 거 그거 누가 컴퓨터에 굳이 넣어가지고 들어봐요. 요즘 멜론 있고 뭐 인터넷 검색하면 다 나오는데 이제 단지 그걸 사는 이유는 이제 뭐 응모, 팬사인회 응모, 뭐 콘서트 응모 이런 걸로 대체가 되기는 하는데 일반인들이 그걸 살 이유는 없다고 보거든요. 저는 그거 없잖아요, 솔직히. 소장용 이런 걸로 사는 거지. 이거는 단지 그냥 팬분들 그런 거기 때문에.
So I know there were subtitles on that, but I'm going to repeat it in English for all my English speaking and listening friends. HO said, agencies charge the debuting group for everything from music production, video production, album production to clothing and dining costs. It costs a minimum of 500 million Korean won, that's approximately 500,000 US dollars, to produce a group. If there are 7 members, each member would owe around $70,000 as soon as they debut. The members will start profiting only after the debt has been paid off. He points out that it's nearly impossible to make enough money to pay off the debt after just the first album. Music programs on TV don't pay much. That's only for exposure. Outside performances, concerts, overseas stages, and album sales are what bring in money, but it's very hard to pay off $500,000 with those. If a group doesn't become too popular, the members end up sitting on a pile of debt. So he's talking about the first album, how you can't pay off the first album, the cost of $500,000 with just the first promotion. Now imagine you get to your second album and you add another $500,000 onto that. Yikes. Another former idol, Twilight Siwon, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, says, only after the group has paid off all the agency's investment costs, the agency and the group members can make profit. Even the rookiest groups get paid at least $3,000 to perform somewhere. So to pay off $500,000, the group has to endure a lethal schedule. I don't know where I'm going to include this in the video, but I have this statistic that I find really sad. Debts must be paid off before an idol can begin earning money. Most less successful group members earn around $7,000 US dollars a year. A year. $7,000 a year. According to Wikipedia, the poverty threshold line for a single person under 65 years of age in the USA, because I could not find the poverty line for South Korea, is $12,760 in 2020, meaning that most idols earning $7,000 a year are living below the poverty line, meaning they are technically legally in poverty for the beginning and most of the time the majority of their career. Okay, wow. So $500,000 is insane, especially for young trainees who already have debts from their pre-debut period. So remember, this $500,000 is just the cost of producing the comeback or the debut, not the training costs. So there's even more on top of that. And they are making almost no money until after they have paid off their promotion debts. As the boys pointed out, many idols sit on piles of debt, seemingly trapped with no way out. All right, so number time, let's do some math. I did a little math to put into perspective how hard paying debt off is. I have chosen 3 groups, all girl groups, who debuted in similar time frames with similar concepts with varying levels of success and notoriety. Blackpink, Everglow, and Tropical and Bulldog. Tropical and Bulldog are 2 different groups with different members. There's no correlation between the 2, if I can really tell. From my research, I just chose them based off their concept and the numbers they could provide to me. So I'm going to be looking straight down at this part at my script because it's a lot of numbers that I don't have memorized, so please excuse. First, a wildly successful debut. Blackpink debuted with 2 joint songs, Boombaya .
Boombaya. Yeah, 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 boombaya.
Whistle. Whistle reached 150,747 downloads sold within the first week on Gaon charts of South Korea. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Boombaya with 88,215 downloads sold in the first week. In the US, about 6,000 downloads were sold of each song, so 12,000 total. That's a total of 250,962 sales in the first week alone, only including South Korea and the US, only including digital downloads, so there was even more profit than what's here. Usually downloading albums on iTunes used to cost anywhere from $2 to $5. So let's average that and say $350. 350 times 250,962 equals $878,367 in just the first week alone. I know Blackpink is from YG Entertainment, one of the big three, so I know they don't have any debts in the first place, but for the sake of this video, let's say they do. Their debut profits were $878,367 in the first week alone, though the math I did is probably majorly lowballing it. With this number, it would definitely be enough to pay off the $500,000 and then have money left over to pay the girls. Yeah, so. Next is the moderately successful debut of Everglow.
Everything, everything, you gotta want my everything, 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 you gotta want my everything. 잠든 날 깨우는 빛, 뽕뽕 초콜릿, go up to the sky. 뽕뽕 초콜릿.
Everglow's Arrival of Everglow single album sold 24,981 copies in Korea. I couldn't find statistics breaking it into digital versus physical, so there's no data I could find outside of South Korea's sales. Again, assuming this number is a complete lowball because of inadequate statistics, 350 times 24,381 equals $87,433.50. That is nowhere near breaking even on the $500,000 cost of production, even as an extreme underestimate. And these girls have debts because they're not from the big three company. Now let's move on to virtually unknown groups. Let's see what I could find. Okay, so any group that have their sales widely known and listed are moderately successful. So finding unknown groups with their sales posted is impossible. I'm not counting underrated groups like Luna or G-Idol because they are considered successful. I tried to find virtually unknown groups, like unknown. I had to scour the web finding these people. I've been trying to find groups with similar concepts in the right time frame with their sales posted that are also unknown for the past hour. No real luck. So I've picked 2 girl groups even though they don't have their sales posted. Again, these groups do not have their official sales posted. I think it's because they don't really have any. One is Bulldog.
누가 날 멈춰 껌 좀 씹어줘 그래 너희는 어때요 철이 좀 없어 그래 좀 시시해 너도 다를 것은 없지 하루 강아지가 어찌 보면 알지.
Debuted in 2016, lost 3 members, went on hiatus in 2018, and later in 2018, assumedly disbanded. The next is Tropical. debuting in August 2018 and disbanding less than a year later in August 2019. Both groups only had one single album, which sales were unavailable for, meaning they probably didn't even register on South Korea's Gaon charts, let alone international charts. So these groups had very little presence, meaning profits were virtually impossible, meaning they had no way of breaking even, meaning there was no way of them or their companies making a profit. Hopefully, this math put into perspective how difficult it is for idols to pay off debts. Blackpink's type of debut success only happens once in a blue moon, like once in a million. That amount of profit is astronomical, even if they did have debts to pay off, which they didn't. Everglow's success should be recognized as a non-Big Three girl group. They just kind of popped out of nowhere one day, went viral, and shook up the K-pop scene. But even with their name and debut song being well known in the K-pop scene, the sales were not enough to make a profit off of, meaning these girls are probably still in debt to their company and probably will be for a few years. In cases like Tropical and Bulldog, it seems like the members either jumped ship when they realized there was no end in sight for their debts, meaning there was no success in sight, or the companies ended promotions of these groups before they invested too much money with no profits possible. The members of these unsuccessful groups most probably ended their careers in debt. Part 4. How K-pop is classist. Now onto the point of this video, the explanation. Let's revisit the definition of classism. Class discrimination, also known as classism, is prejudice or discrimination on the basis of social class. It includes individual attitudes, behaviors, systems of policies, and practices that are set up to benefit the upper class at the expense of the lower class. For the purposes of this video, the statement of systems of policies and practices is what applies the most. While it may not be necessarily intentionally classist, an industry such as the K-pop industry is inherently classist in its practices. Here's how. Many opportunities are only presented to people who are able to afford them. For example, point A. It is revealed in a BBC interview with ex-trainee, I'm gonna butcher this pronunciation, Urias, that money matters in even the most basic sense, as in people pay their way into trainee spots in companies. And point B. As stated in Kaya's interview, the better quality training is provided to those who can afford to pay for more expensive lessons.
If you want to do dance classes every month, you need to pay. It could range from anything from, depending on if you do cheap classes, from like $400 to over $1,000.
Hi, it's Editing Grace here, and I just want to point out that also people who have access to more money can pay for more types of classes, as in they can pay for acting classes, music production classes, classes in both rapping and singing, so people with more money can become more well-rounded and more well-trained, therefore a better possibility of debuting.
Point C. It is a well-known fact that looks and therefore plastic surgery is a factor in whether people are considered for positions, so only people who can afford plastic surgery are valid candidates to debut. I know some people may have some counterpoints, so I will bring some up and then refute them. But they don't have to pay up front, so why is it a problem? Like all loans and debts, many find it difficult to dig themselves out of the hole once it is created because it just keeps getting deeper. The debts of a trainee/idol accrue over years of spending thousands of dollars monthly in the training process, and then the company spending tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars during promotions. The debt keeps becoming larger and larger the longer a person trains or promotes without breaking even. And as explained by idols themselves, such as HO and Siwon earlier, it is incredibly difficult to pay off, even after multiple moderately successful comebacks and promotions. Many idols spend years in debt, and many end their careers with debt, as we've seen with Tropical and Bulldog. Think of the longest list of group names you can come up with. Chances are that most of those groups have been or are currently in debt to their companies. And now think about how for every one group you manage to name on that list, there are probably 10 soloists or groups that you haven't even heard of that are in debt as well. And I know some people will say, well, some groups started off very poor and rose to stardom. BTS is a good example of this. They started off with a very small company. The company was in debt. The boys were probably in debt for a long period of their promotions at the start of their careers. But BTS, like Blackpink, is another example of a once in a blue moon, once in a million situation. Not everybody rockets to stardom like BTS and starts making millions, let alone from a small, in debt, pretty much broke company. That's just really not realistic.
To become a K-pop idol, though, what's the percentage of people who really become a K-pop idol from the trainee itself?
Not very many. A lot of groups, even if they debuted, it doesn't mean that's going to give them actual like BTS superstardom success. Or if they do happen to get picked and chosen for a debut line, they could be practicing forever and still never debut.
Okay, so next question someone will ask. Okay, so it costs money. How is that classist? Though the K-pop industry may not be necessarily intentionally classist, it is inherently so. Meaning that while CEOs and big bosses in companies may not say, oh, well, you're too poor to be let into a company, the practices of the trainee and K-pop idol industry leads for it to be that way. This is how. Point 1. Many trainees are children or teenagers when they begin training. I'm meaning like 10, 11 years old. You know, they start them young. This means that all the payments for their training comes from their guardians, meaning that in most cases it is solely the parents' incomes and savings that provide the payment for the training. If a family is not wealthy enough to pay for all of the training immediately, they could go into debt to the company or banks if loans are taken out, and you do not want to be in debt from taking out loans. We can see just an example of the US that, college loans are a huge hole that a lot of people cannot get out of. And even if they can pay the fee when it is due the first few times, it is likely that many families cannot afford to shell out thousands of dollars monthly. And then think of families who have multiple children or relatives in the industry. So take the thousands of dollars a month for one child and multiply that by 2 or 3. Yikes. Because of this, many less wealthy families may simply not allow their children to participate in auditions or training because it is too expensive, making way for only those who can afford it to enter the industry. Point 2. Years of lessons and various expertises are required to debut. After a while, a person may decide that the cost is becoming too expensive, give up, letting their contract run out before the chance at debuting. Many of the less financially well-off trainees will leave as the long years of expensive training go on, leaving the ones who can pay for it left to debut. Point 3. Even if a person enters the training program and begins to accrue debt pertaining to skill-based training, such as dancing, singing, rapping, blah, 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 plastic surgery is also a must for most idols, if not all idols. And I know some of you are saying, oh, my fave didn't get plastic surgery, at least not noticeable. I'm counting minor surgeries like lip fillers and mole removals, so please don't even try that. Your fave probably had something done. Don't even try to deny it with the societal expectations of beauty that Korea has, especially for their idols. Plastic surgery is extremely expensive and also a line that many people are not willing to cross. If a trainee refuses plastic surgery, their chances of debuting decrease, and their contracts are more likely to run their course without a debut, and thus having many people give up and leave the company. So, the practices of the K-pop industry are inherently classist because the debt system leads to poorer people not being able to pay for training, thus discouraging people from auditioning in the first place or being forced to leave after the expenses become too much over a long period of time. Only the wealthy are able to comfortably spend money through the long years, expensive training, and promotional periods. The K-pop industry is a money machine, which leaves those who have big dreams but little money at a disadvantage. Alright, so outro time. I hope you guys enjoyed and understood this video. I wouldn't really use the word enjoyed because it's a sad, hard to swallow topic that, we all know our faves' names, and even if some people are not our faves, we know their names. There are people who never become successful and never pay off their debts and never get to live their dreams. And for every one person that we know who is successful, there's so many more out there that are not, because it is just too expensive. I enjoyed making this video. I really like doing research on things that interest me, and it's my first time doing this on this channel, and I hope you guys could understand what I was trying to communicate to you. Like I said, it's my first time, so if you have any pointers on how I can communicate better, please let me know kindly and respectfully in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment with your thoughts and opinions down in the section below, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.